Guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. Now, if you've clicked on this, you already know what this is about, and I teased this a little bit on my shorts for a little while now, and I thought it was about time I did what some of you guys were asking and did a review on the Rare Arms M4 GBBR, which stands apparently for gas blowback ejection rifle. Now, you guys who are not familiar with what this is something that I've wanted for so long. I can't really go into how long I've been after this for, but I had an opportunity to buy one. Sold like loads of my bits and pieces to try and afford it because I wanted one for just so damn long. So anyway, let's get into it. So the Rare Arms, from my understanding, comes in this lovely case, which is already marked up with its official logo here. So let's open this and see what we have inside. Now, it's worth bearing in mind, mine came as a package and it was used, because getting these brand new is quite difficult and quite expensive. So I went down the used route and I got a good package with this one. So we'll unzip this. Here we go. Now the brown box is CO2, so disregard that. In here I have got two brand new Rare Arms magazines, unopened, so keep those over one side. I have got a total, I think, of 9 magazines. So I've got 2 there. 3, this is a real steel magazine apparently, which apparently will work with this, which is a really nice sort of bonus that I wasn't expecting, but I believe this is real steel. So I don't know, I could be wrong, but from my understanding, looking at the follower, it looks like it's genuine. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, got 3 here, and then 9. I've got some rounds in it, which I'll show you in a little while. And the nice thing with the magazines is they are super light because there is no gas inside here. So they replicate a real steel magazine like no other gas blowback does. We also have our shell catcher. Now, this is a bit of a, one of those things that some people are happy about, some are not. At the end of the day, this rifle is expensive. The shells are not the cheapest. The shells are expensive. If you're going to skirmish this, really, you're going to want to retain the shells as much as you can. They're not infinitely reusable. However, you could reuse them a few times. So you really want to catch them, so you have a shell catcher with it. I believe this comes with the shell catcher, but again, I could be wrong. Anyone who knows, please comment below. In the bag, I've got a load of other bits and pieces, which I'll probably show you in a little while, but tons of shells. I also have all the parts to convert this over to HPA, because it's currently set up for using CO2. Now, there are some people out there that love HPA, and there are some people that absolutely loathe it. I sort of fall somewhere between the two. I don't like being tethered to one of these by a bottle and a line. However, having used it a bit, the CO2 is quite limited. It's not something that you could feasibly skirmish, in my opinion. I'm sure there'll be people out there who would. My rifle in its current state probably isn't in the best of health to be able to do it purely on CO2. I've ran it on a HPA bottle for a little bit and it works great. But at the moment, yeah, it's not quite where it needs to be. So anyway, let's get it out. So we'll get our magazine out. Now, might as well talk about these while we're here. Now, the shells you get come in 2 flavours. They come in the plastic variety, which is an ABS, and you have this little insert that pushes in the end here, which the BB goes in the end. And the idea here is you put BB in the end of here, and gas travels down through the shell and then ejects the BB out into the barrel and the hop unit, and then it works just like a normal gas blowback. So you have the plastic ones, the ABS ones, which are reasonable money. They're about £14-15 for 30, which obviously is a magazine's worth. Or if you're feeling quite flush, you can purchase the metal shells, which, God, they look good. Which again have the hole through. The end isn't removable. It's fixed in place. But again, you're probably going to get a lot more use out of these than you would out of the plastic ones. I've had some of the plastic ones, the rim at the end of the case breaks off from use, because again, they don't last forever. Whereas you're going to get a bit more use out of these. However, these are about, I think they're about £30 for 15. So it's double the price for half the quantity. So yeah, it's an expensive way of doing it. I bought 15 because I've had to buy some bits and pieces for this rifle to get it running right. So I wasn't going to go spending big money on a load of these. So I've got 15 in here, which again, to load, they just pop into the magazine like so, and we'll go through that in a little while. So again, if this is the case it comes in, which my understanding it is, they all come in these. You get these nice sort of Velcro straps to hold the rifle in place, which is nice. Let's get the rifle out. Now, obviously, disregard the sight that's fitted. I've popped this on because it didn't have one. And we have a front sight, but no rear sight. So I had to put something on it to obviously be able to use it. Now, this is in the mk18 flavour. Now, there are a few different versions of this Rare Arms AR15. But this one is, if I had to choose one, this is the one I would pick. And let's be clear, I would have bought it in any flavour. Whatever one came up for sale, I would have bought it because I've wanted one for a long time. Let's just go over externals so you can see what it's like, and then we'll go into functions and then the internals as well. Now, externally, you can see it is in a mk18 style configuration with the carbine length sort of outer barrel. We've obviously got crane stock. Slightly different type of grip fitted, and it is a bit bulkier. Users of AEGs would recognise the size, but the reason why it's larger we'll get into a little while, but that's actually where the CO2 goes to operate the system. One thing I love about the Rare Arms is the materials. I've handled a few AR15s and over the years, them being deact. It felt very similar to this. Materials wise, from my understanding, this is a 2022. I've checked this from Rare Arms, checking the serial number, which, by the way, if we're looking at markings, you can see we've got all the property of US government, M4A1 carbine, cal 5.56, and that is a unique serial number for these rifles. So they're all individually serialized, and it is, you know, these receivers at this age, I believe, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that the 2022, which this one is, falls into the 6065 forged aluminium receiver, whereas the new ones are a 7075, I believe, which again is just it's effectively what they make the real ones out of. So it is a forged receiver set with this, and you can quite believe it. The finish is incredible. For an airsoft rifle, it blew my mind. I've had it out the box, messing around with it, and it is just phenomenal. I've never had any rifle before that is as good, finish-wise, as this. It is out of this world. Standard controls. Currently I've got it in safe. Now there's a reason why I have it in safe. Gas blowbacks, obviously you remove the magazine, which has the gas reservoir in. You can pull the trigger and no harm comes, because obviously the hammer falls but the system is empty. Currently we have a CO2 cartridge fitted in here, so I'll keep it on safe, because obviously I don't want it to function when I haven't got anything in it. So we currently keep it on safe, but the selector is very positive, clicks in nicely into position. So we're going to leave it in safe for now. We've got our bolt release, which is your standard bolt release, paddle bolt release on here. And you've also got your magazine release. Notice this is a non-ambi. We haven't got our ambidextrous controls, but you can buy from Rare Arms. I'm right-handed, so it doesn't bother me anyway. I can get to my magazine release there, no problem. And then obviously just releasing the bolt with my other hand. Yeah, externals are phenomenal. They appear to be of an anodized finish, but it could be something else entirely. It appears to me to be anodized, but I could be wrong. And, you know, considering this rifle's a few years old, it's had a couple of owners so far, and the finish, well, there aren't any marks on the receivers at all. They're absolutely flawless still. Even having had sights on, they're perfect. Stock, I believe to be the original stock. It is okay. And, you know, to be honest with you, you know, when people get very hung up on some externals on gas blowback rifles, and they forget that real steel rifles aren't always pretty. You know, they are a bit rough and ready if they're not high end. And I would say this stock, you know, fits what a real steel, you know, stock would look like. Like I said, grip, a little unusual. Reminds me a bit of a Magpul style grip. It's that similar kind of look. But again, this houses the CO2. And then our rail on the front here, you can see is an M-lock design. It has some markings on the other side, which just says Rare Arms and the M-lock logo. The rail isn't of the same quality of the receivers, and you can see there are some marks in this rail because it has been used. It is, I believe, anodized as well, or it's of some kind of Cerakote coating, but it has marked up a little bit over time. One unique part of the rail, though, is it does have a flip-up front sight, which again, press it back in again to fold it back down, which is quite nice. And on the end here, we've got, this is the original flash hider. It isn't actually in the right orientation at the moment because I've only just put it on. I actually got this through in the post. It's supposed to be fitted like that, but I haven't got the crush washer for it, so it's slightly off center now. Yeah, my one had a random one fitted, which was a shame. So we, well, you know, I went down the route of ordering these parts from Rare Arms. On the top here, I get lots of people ask what this is. This is for your shell catcher. It's a little widget so you can slide your shell catcher on, like so, and that will then stay in position to catch your shells. At the moment, this won't go all the way on because my sight is blocking it from going on, but you can adjust it. You can see the poles in the bottom there. Other controls, we've obviously got our forward assist, which is a working item, and you shouldn't, but you can use it, you know, for feeding if you're having feeding issues or the bolt travel is a bit sticky. You can use that to send the bolt home. We've obviously got our steel dust cover, and obviously our charging handle as usual on a normal M4. We've also on the back here got some sling loops, which are your standard like QD holes. Other than that, externally, it's an M4. Now, how it operates is where everything changes a bit and inside. So what we're going to do is we'll pull it apart so you can see the internals, see what it's like, and see where your money is going. Okay? So we'll get it apart and we'll go from there. Hey guys, so we've got it apart now, so we can get you a slightly tighter shot so you can see what we're talking about here. Now, it's worth bearing in mind that looking at the internals of this is going to look very different to what you're used to if you're into your gas blowbacks. Extremely different to the normal thing you're used to seeing. So, internally then, what have we got? We've got your standard style buffer tube, which has got a real steel style buffer and a very hefty recoil spring. And it's not quite real steel spec, but it's a lot tougher than most you see on gas blowbacks. Now your internals are very unusual, as you can probably see looking at it here. Now the thing that threw me immediately the second I saw it was this at the front here. This, bring it in sight for you, is your gas router. Now, we're so used to seeing this fitted to a magazine all the way forwards. It feels so strange with it being so far back on the gun. But you do have to remember the reason why it's here is because this is the main operating part of the gun here. This is the bit where all the system lies. So the upper is just not even part of the equation here. It is just, it's all in this. So very unusual. This bit back at the back here as well is your hammer. We've got our auto sear here, which if I press that down, you'll see the hammer drop forward slightly. And then you've got your valve locker on the side here. And you do get two in the box, used for different temperatures. And you actually have something printed on them saying used for, and then the temperature underneath. You can see all of our trades on here as well really nicely, which is really good. But again, internally, it is very different. And, you know, just to reiterate the components in here, you know, all of this stuff, hammer, sear, are all steel. Trigger is steel. Fire selector is steel. Bolt catch is steel. Notice how the bolt catch works as well. Okay, we'll look at that. So you've got a little tab that pokes out here so that when the magazine is empty, it pushes that up. And notice that goes in the way of the bolt and literally holds the bolt back. So there's no cutout in the side of the bolt. It literally holds the bolt face back. So quite different than any gas blowback we've come across before. Now you've got a trigger box in here, which is held in by 3 screws, one at the back, 2 either side. I've not yet had this fully apart yet. However, that is going to happen soon because I've got some replacement parts for this. I'm going to try to drop the hammer. I don't really want to because I don't want the thing to go off. So I'm just going to go nice and steady here. Hopefully it will go forwards. No, it won't. It's going to set it off. Well, anyway, that's your hammer on the back there. So that is what falls forwards and is cocked by the bolt as well here. Okay. Now, other than that, I couldn't really tell you what's going on in here other than, if we look in the bottom of the grip, you can see there's an Allen key for our CO2 cartridge, which is a 12 gram CO2, which goes in the grip. Now, if you want to run this on air, there are some bits and pieces that I have in my box. Now, I don't know whether or not you get this stock because, again, there isn't a lot of information out there about this, so I don't know. It could be you get this stock with the gun. You might not. I have no idea. However, I got, included with mine, a HPA line and a tool. Now, when I first got this, it was converted to run on HPA, and the owner of it didn't really know a lot about the gun. I asked him lots of questions about, you know, how it worked and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And he couldn't really tell me a lot. My thoughts are that he either bought it and didn't really know a lot about it and thought it was going to be really cool and decided against it in the end. Or I think it's possible he took it in as a trade and didn't really know anything about it and then tried to ship it on to somebody else, i.e. me. Because initially he told me that this was for connecting it to a bottle of black gas, which clearly it's not. Now, if we look at the top end of the HPA bottle, the HPA line, you can see it's shaped a lot like a CO2 cartridge. And that is no accident, because that's exactly how it fits in. Effectively, what happens when you convert this to CO2, you're taking the sleeve out which holds the CO2 cartridge in, you take it out completely because it screws in, and this goes in its place, and this replaces the bit that holds your CO2 cartridge in, and literally just screws in place, and then you've got it converted straight into CO2. I got 2 of the tools with it to be able to convert it over as well. Whether these come with it or not, I don't know. Again, this is just stuff I got. You would think you would get all this stuff, but knowing airsoft manufacturers, that's probably not the case. So to install it, you literally slide that over there. There are 4 grooves in this collar, which it latches into place. Then you can just use an Allen key or screwdriver, whatever, just to go in the side, then twist to tighten or loosen this off. And in a little while, maybe I'll show you how to install this, or I might just do a short video on how to convert it at a later stage. So we'll put that over one side for now. So that's your lower. There isn't really a lot else to tell about the lower because it's all internal and I can't really show you the insides of it. So we're going to put that over one side and then we're going to have a look at the upper. Right guys, so upper receiver then. Now, upper receiver, you can see looks pretty normal. You've got your 2 lugs here. The main difference here is the bolt carrier group. If we pull the bolt carrier group out, we have a look at it, you can see it looks quite different to a normal gas blowback. Now, I haven't got a M4 to hand to show you, but usually this cutout extends a lot further down to here. And that mimics the real rifle. It does extend down to about here usually. And this is the one thing I would say with this rifle. If you're looking for a replica that internally looks like it could be a real steel rifle, this is not the rifle for you, because it doesn't replicate the rifle exactly. It's a compromised adaptation of the real rifle. Now, the other thing that's different with this bolt carrier group is if we look underneath, you can see how big the nozzle is. It extends all the way down here. Normally the nozzle is this long, but the gas router is way up here near the front, and then you have a loading nozzle on the end here. But you can see here, we just have a bolt face, very much like a real steel rifle. You can see here we've got an ejector and an extractor here. And obviously what that's for, you can see that that actually locks in there, and the ejector is pushing the cartridge out the way. So as the bolt travels back, it pulls the cartridge out, and that extractor and ejector is pulling the case out and flicking it out at an angle to eject the case, which is, you know, mimicking what the real steel rifle does. The nozzle again, the end part here is aluminium, and it is very hard. You can see the silvering we got on the end here is from the bolt catch. The bolt catch actually pops up and stops the bolt on the front of the face, which again, if this was on a plastic nozzle, it would, on a normal airsoft rifle, that would be destroyed in about 10 minutes. But you can see this has had a lot of wear and still works perfectly. I've heard stories of ejectors and extractors needing changing, but so far this seems to work perfectly. Now, the nozzle itself, like I said, is very long. You've got your inlet into it just here, and the full travel is actually quite short. That is your full travel there. You can see it's not massively long, and the actual bit which does the compression is in here. So it's a very small cylinder. Now, in my eyes, this is the main issue with this rifle, is the fact that this is a very small cylinder for how much it's having to do. It's having to move this bolt carrier group, which, by the way, this is a hefty lump. This is a heavy, heavy piece of steel, and this is CNC'd steel. I mean, look at the machining on it. It is absolutely flawless. It's got this different coating on it as well, which is supposed to be for added lubrication. And I can quite believe it. I mean, it runs buttery smooth in the upper. Really, really impressive. There's a very small piston here. This is like the size of a pistol cylinder, so it's very small. We do have a double O-ring on the end of the nozzle, which obviously just adds to the seal. Now, I've done a little bit of work on this here. Now, this was very sharp edged here. Now, I curved this off slightly to assist it. Now, whether that was the right move or not, I don't know, but it definitely runs better than it did originally. So hopefully I haven't done any lasting damage to it, but it runs a lot better now than it did before, that's for sure. If you need to disassemble this and take the nozzle out, it's a little different. There is a roll pin in the back here you have to punch out. And then once you've got the roll pin out, you can hopefully just about see under here. When the roll pin's out, this is a big flat head machine screw, which you undo. That then comes out, and you need to undo these 2 bolts on the top here to remove the top section. There's your nozzle guide, which is this part here, which is a little metal insert which goes in the top here. And then you can withdraw the whole nozzle and take the whole nozzle out. So it's a very intricate thing. Inside the upper, you're not really going to be able to see a lot here, but hopefully you can see in here we have our chamber. Let's close that up. There's our chamber. And our shells obviously slide in there. And they actually go a lot further in than that. Being held in place, obviously, by the bolt carrier group. Now, again, Rail Arms have done some really clever work in here. That chamber, let's call it, is plastic. Now, let's think about this. You might think, that's a bit cheap on such an expensive rifle, but they've done this on purpose. They've done this so that this cannot be converted to fire any kind of real shell, because plastic wouldn't hold up to the pressure that's required. You know, I'd rather this exist and have a plastic chamber than it get banned because it, you know, has the potential to be converted into a real firearm, which it doesn't, thankfully, now. We've also got our inner barrel inside here, which is almost full length. I think it goes all the way down to about here at the end. And the hop-up adjustment, there's a little wheel at the top. I don't know if you can just about see it in there. There's a little wheel at the top of the barrel, which you then can adjust your hop-up on there as well. But that is basically our upper receiver. The only other thing I will show you is how well this bolt carrier goes inside here. Now, it might sound like a silly thing to say, but if you look on the inside here, you can see there is virtually no wear in there. And that is because the tolerances of this are so tight. This is not lubed. This is pretty much bone dry. I'm going to pop the bolt carrier in here. And it just, look at that. It is like it's on bearings. I cannot express just how smooth that slides into place. Yeah, very impressive. Right, let's get it together and then we'll do some functional videos. So I'm going to show you how to install a new gas cartridge then. So in here, we're obviously going to make sure that we remove here first. So Allen key in there, undo just like a normal CO2 rifle. There's your CO2 cartridge. I'm going to install the new one. Now, before we install this, we need to make sure the gun is cocked, because I was stupid. I'm going to put it back on safe again. I was stupid when I first got this. I put a CO2 cartridge in, converted it back to CO2 because it was on air. And I put a CO2 cartridge in, it just discharged the whole lot out of the gun. And I thought, oh, that's it. I've bought a dud. But actually, it's because the hammer was forwards, so the valve was open. So as soon as you put a CO2 cartridge in, it just exerts all of it out in one go. So you have to make sure the rifle is cocked, so the hammer is back. So we've got a new CO2 cartridge here. Go and install that. And just wind it in. Now you can see I am having issues with this at the moment, which is why it went to cycle on me there. So I'm suspecting that this is probably going to play up today. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Tend to find that if I run it on a CO2 cartridge and then it stutters around and messes about, when I change to another one, it seems to work okay. So we'll see how we go. So we're going to put it onto semi-auto and we're going to see how it cycles, because this you can actually fire with no magazine in, because obviously all the unit that controls it is all in the grip and in the receiver. So we'll see how it runs. There we go. Now notice it is quite stout. You know, we've got quite snappy there. Now at the moment, this is the one thing I was really intrigued to know when I got this. How much you get out of a CO2 cartridge. Some people say it's up to 60 shots. Some people say it's less than that. At the moment, I can barely clear 20, which sounds terrible. That's worth bearing in mind. I'm having issues with mine, and I bought a whole new seal kit, which I am going to install, and a few other bits and pieces to improve efficiency. So if you do get one of these, bear that in mind, that you might, even though it seems to work, especially as most people run them on air, if you want to run it on CO2, you're probably going to have to do a bit of a rebuild on this to make sure it's running correctly. So, but as we can see there, semi-auto working fine. Let's put it into full auto. And you can see it's quite slow on full auto. And part of the reason for that is a really heavy bolt carrier. I will probably weigh this stuff when I start to take it apart. I can't be bothered to go down that route today. But the internal components, they are very heavy, and the spring is very tough. So that's why it's not great. So what we're going to do then is let's do a couple of shells. Now, I don't really want to lose any of these in here, so I'm not going to use the metal ones. I'm going to go down the route of using my plastic ones in one of the magazines, and I'll show you loading it. Now, I'm just going to grab some shells, and I'll explain what I'm doing with the shells first before we shoot them in a moment. Okay guys, so got some shells. Now you'll notice that I've got 4 here which don't have the top in, whereas this one does. Now the reason why these 4 don't have the top in is when I first got it, and I first got it working, I did a lot of messing around for basically a full day trying to get this working correctly, because it was already running on air and I didn't want it to run it on air, I wanted to run it on CO2. I put a load in like this and went to shoot it, and they just blew themselves apart. This insert does come out. Now, if you've got a BB in here, it's fine. The BB just shoots out, it's not a problem. However, if you don't, the air pressure behind it will blow this out. Now, it can't go down the barrel, so it will eject the case. This will stay in the chamber, and you'll load another case in behind it, and it will jam, and it will wedge this in. And trust me, if they get stuck in there, it is a real pain. You pretty much need to have a long screw that you wind in the back and then try and pull it out. Trying to use a barrel tool to clean it and push it out the other end won't work, because the hole is the same size as the outer barrel, the inner barrel. So it just goes straight through and nothing happens. So just bear that in mind. If you do want to dry fire this, you're going to have to remove that insert. So I've got 4 here which are already got the insert removed. Now, if we look at the magazine, you can see that the follower that holds the shells in doesn't go all the way to the front. And if we look at the real steel magazine I've got here, that one goes all the way to the front. Now, I have been told that this will still function. So I haven't used it yet, because I've been using these ones to start off with. But I will try it at a later stage and see if we can get it running on real steel mags, because it'd be interesting if we can. Now, this little spacer at the front here does have a ramp on to help them feed. And also, it obviously stops them going too far forwards. So to load, obviously, if you've got the end pieces in, you'd push a BB in the end and then literally into the feed lip, locks in place. Let's put our next one in, just like a real steel. Put them in like so. And I've got 4 here. Get the 4th one in. There we go. So let's try it out, shall we? Let's lock our bolt back. But the idea is that is going to feed that into the chamber when I drop the bolt. That's gone straight in. So now we're on semi. Case just goes flying out. Another one out. Another one out. And then locks back. I'll go and rescue the cases because they go flying, as you can imagine. And then we'll try a short burst on auto. Okay, so I've got the 4 back in here now again. So we're going to try it on auto this time. So mag in. Notice it locked the bolt to the rear. So I'm going to drop the bolt. Put him onto auto. And there we go. Locked open. All 4 gone. Now, the reason why I've only done 4 here is that, like I said, I am having issues with mine. Gas efficiency is not great at the moment. Now, I've been told the reason why the gas efficiency isn't great is I need a new seal kit, and also I need to change the rubber, which is fitted in the top of the lower receiver, which is your gas router into the nozzle. So I've been told I need to change that. I've ordered 3 from Rare Arms. And by the way, if you're looking for parts for your Rare Arms, look up Rare Arms on Facebook. You can message them directly there, and they are brilliant. Okay. They will send you parts diagrams so you can see all of the breakdown of the rifle, and you can select the parts you need from there and order them. And they are pretty quick with getting them over to you, to be fair. I've ordered some parts and they receive them the next week. So I am still waiting for the gas routers to arrive. So once I have those, I will be changing those and doing probably a full seal kit on it, just to make sure everything's tip-top and working correctly. And we'll see what the gas efficiency is like now. Now, I could run it on auto now, but it would just work really slowly and have real bad cooldown, which, you know, to be fair, is probably just what it's like on CO2. Obviously on air, it's much more consistent because you've got a much larger capacity of gas, if you like, or air available. To be honest with you though, CO2, semi-auto is where it's at. Semi-auto works pretty much flawlessly on CO2 with very little issues. And like I said, you probably would get 30 rounds out of it, I reckon, on a CO2 cartridge in its current state. Again, this is mine, but other people report up to 60 rounds, which I think is pretty reasonable for a small CO2 cartridge on such a big, heavy action. You know, you think about some of the CO2 air pistols you can get, or CO2 air rifles, which will barely do that. You know, 60 shots out of 2 cartridges. So to do 1-on-1, and it's operating a huge steel bolt, is impressive. So yeah, there we go. Now, I haven't tried FPS yet, so we're going to get the chrono set up. I'm going to do an FPS check and see what we're getting FPS on this one. Okay guys, so we've got our shells loaded. I've moved the chronograph slightly, so I'll tell you what, let's try the metal shells. Let's just try those. I know they're brand new. It could be that these shells are a bit worn out. So let's try the metal shells. There we go, they're all loaded up. They do look better going into the magazine though, and they do sound great going in the magazine. There we go. Right, so mag in, drop the bolt, there we go, straight in. Right, so let's see what we've got. We're on semi, ready to go. There we go. Okay, so there we can see guys. So we're pushing, you know, between 270 and, you know, 316, which, yeah, it's a bit erratic. And again, there is a reason for that. Mine is not in the best of health. So, you know, like I said, we need to do some work on this, and that will be coming in the coming weeks. But there we go. We've got our chrono reading there, so you know roughly what to expect. So, any further questions about the rare arms, fire away in the comments. If I've missed anything out, any of you guys out there that do have rare arms and I've missed something out, something I really should be mentioning, then do put that in the comments. I'd like to hear what you've got to say. If you've got any comments about what we want to do with the rifle, or if you had previous experience with one of these and you want to tell me what to look out for, please put it in the comments. I've had some guidance from the Heavy Recoil Club on Discord. They've all been really fantastic so far in guiding me what to do. So I've got a few bits and pieces to look at. But again, if any of you guys have got any experience with this and you want to give me some advice, fire away in the comments. Please like and subscribe. And follow me on this journey with this fantastic looking Rare Arms gas blowback. Right, see you again, guys.